Foundation GCSE might seem like the easier route, but it's not always the best option. Now, in this video, we're going to discuss 3 big reasons why you should consider avoiding Foundation GCSE, and trust me, the higher route might be worth the challenge. For those of you who are new to the channel, hi, I'm Varjod, I'm the founder of Mobile Tutors, and every year we help thousands of students increase their GCSE and A-level grades. I scored 98% in most of my GCSE and A-levels, and I hold a first-class degree from the London School of Economics in Business, Maths and Statistics. So let's get into it. Now, let's talk about something that most students and even parents don't realize until it's too late. And that is that the foundation tier will limit your future options. It's as simple as that. Now, a lot of people would say foundation is easier, there's a lot less content to cover, and it will make sure you secure a pass. However, what you need to realize is that the foundation paper will cap your grade at a grade 5. And yes, we all know a grade 5 is technically a pass. However, if you want to get into the best sixth forms and the best universities, a grade 5 is not good enough, especially if you want to study subjects like maths and science. And even if you don't want to study maths and science later on, even if you want to go to the top universities or sixth forms, they still have a minimum GCSE requirement of 6 in subjects like maths in order to get in. Now, we've spoken about sixth forms in some universities, but if we take the top universities, for example, like the London School of Economics, LSE have a minimum GCSE maths requirement of a grade 6 just to apply there. So that means if you end up doing foundation, you'll be capped at a grade 5 and you won't even be able to apply to top universities like this. Now, teachers would sometimes recommend you to do the foundation paper because you might be struggling and the content is easier, and I totally get it. However, what you need to realize is that most students are actually capable of doing the higher paper and achieving at least a grade 6. Now, the thing is that most students don't believe that they can actually do the higher tier. The reason being is that a lot of these students are struggling, they're overwhelmed with the content, and they can just about keep up with foundation, so let alone even trying to do higher. Now, one thing we've realized after helping hundreds and hundreds of students with the higher tier is that everyone can actually achieve a good grade on the higher tier. All they need is the right support, the right plan, and of course, the right amount of exam practice to get them ready. Now, as I said, the higher tier is 100% achievable for all students. And even if you end up getting a grade 4 or 5, it's still better than doing the foundation tier. Because with the foundation tier, you're limiting your options before you even start. Now, the second reason why you should avoid the foundation paper is because it's actually easier to pass on the higher paper. Now, on the foundation paper, you can only get up to a grade 5. Now, even to get a pass mark of a grade 4 on the foundation paper, you need to roughly get between 65 to 75% on the paper. Now, this is actually quite difficult, especially for students who are struggling with the content and they find the subject overwhelming. You need to get 2/3 of the paper right in order just to pass. Now, this is a pretty high bar, especially for students who are struggling with the content and are overwhelmed with the subject. You still have to get around 2/3 of the paper correct to even get a pass mark. Now, if we compare this with the higher paper, yes, of course, the content is more difficult and there is a lot more content. However, the pass mark and the grade boundary is a lot lower. Now, on a higher maths paper, for example, to get a pass mark, which is a grade 4, you only roughly need to get between 18 to 22% of the paper correct. And to get a grade 5, you only need around 30 to 35% of the paper correct. Now, have a think about that for a second. All you need to do is get less than half of the marks correct, and you still get a grade 5 on a higher paper. And the same goes for science. If we take foundation combined science, you still need to get between 60 to 70% of the paper correct to get a grade 4. However, on the higher tier, to get a similar grade, you only need to get between 30 to 40% correct. Now, this of course depends on the year, but on average, 30 to 40% is all you will need to go and get a pass mark. So yes, of course the questions are more difficult, but you don't need to get nearly as many correct to get the same grade. And remember, the exams are designed with that in mind. Also, just to remind you here that there is no higher or foundation in English, it's only for maths and science mainly. And it's important to know that the higher paper is designed specifically for this, because on the higher paper you can get up to a grade 9. So that's why the lower grade boundaries are slightly easier to reflect that for students. So this actually gives students who are on the borderline a better chance of getting those crucial marks without having to do every single question on the higher paper and still getting a pass mark. So that the idea that the foundation paper is always the easier option is not always true. In fact, for those students who are always hovering around a grade 4 or 5, it might actually be statistically better for them to go and do the higher paper and give it a shot. This is because if you are willing to revise some of the harder topics and actually target your revision in certain areas, you can actually end up getting a better mark and grade. You don't actually need to master everything on the higher paper. You just need to be specific and target your revision in key areas. However, of course, if you are doing higher, I wouldn't suggest just learning certain topics. Of course, you do want to go ahead and learn everything, But what I'm trying to say is that even if you do focus on certain areas in higher and just pick up those marks, along with what you've learned in foundation, you will actually end up getting a better grade. And here's the key thing, is that not all of the questions on the higher paper are actually difficult, because a lot of the questions on the higher paper, especially those that come up in the beginning, are actually from the end questions on the foundation paper. So if you can master these difficult topics on foundation, you can actually pick up a lot of the marks on the higher paper earlier on. You don't need to understand everything on the higher paper, you just need to be strategic. Now, of course, I wouldn't suggest missing out large chunks of content on the higher paper, but what I am saying is that you can literally focus on certain areas in higher and still pick up a lot more marks and get a higher grade overall than if you just went ahead and done the foundation paper. Now, the last reason why you should consider not doing the foundation paper is because of the sense of achievement. Now, let's talk about how it feels to sit foundation versus higher tier. Let's put all the grades and the marks to the side for a second. Let's actually think about your sense of achievement and how you actually feel about sitting a foundation paper. So remember, if you're on the foundation paper, you're immediately limited. The highest grade you can get is a grade 5. It doesn't matter if you get 100%. It doesn't matter if you revise all day and you get all of the marks correct. You're immediately limited at grade 5. That's what we call the ceiling effect. No matter how high you push, you're always capped. And here's the problem. This will actually kill a lot of motivation. So let's say you get into the rhythm where you're revising all day, you're doing much better in class, you're understanding the content, you're doing better in your mocks. But then you'll realize your grade is actually capped at a grade 5. And then there's no point anymore of revising any harder. And this is actually true because I've worked with loads of students who actually want to do the higher tier, but they've been forced to do the foundation paper. And then they have this attitude like they cannot be bothered to revise anymore because they don't see any point. This is completely wrong because this is not how you should feel. And therefore doing the foundation paper is not something that you should really aim for. Because on the foundation, you can't even get a grade 6, 7, 8 or 9. So what's the point of even trying to push so hard and revise so hard as well? And of course, this is not the right attitude to have. However, you can't blame students who do the foundation paper because if you are working your hardest and your grade is capped, of course it's going to kill your motivation and there's no reason for you to work any harder. Now let's compare this with the higher paper. With higher, there is no ceiling, so you can achieve up to a grade 9. So what this means is that all of the extra revision you do, all of the hard work you put in and all of those extra marks you're getting in the exam can actually get you a better grade. So there's more of a reason for you to work harder. And even if you don't end up with a grade 7, 8 or 9, at least you've tried the hardest paper and this will be a big confidence booster for yourself. You're doing the same paper that all of the top students do, so you're basically in a level playing field. And the best thing is that the work you put in directly corresponds to the grade you get out, and you're not held back by the system as if you were doing the foundation paper. This builds a stronger mindset because imagine going from like a grade 4 doing the foundation paper in year 10 to getting a grade 6 or 7 in the higher paper in year 11. This will be a massive confidence boost, but it will also prove to yourself that hard work actually pays off. So if you're someone who wants to challenge yourself and actually achieve the best that you can, then the higher tier is definitely the option for you. Unlike the foundation paper, when students find out they entered for this, they can often feel disheartened and their motivation can drop. So if you're on the fence about which tier to choose, remember the foundation tier, of course, is the easier option. However, the higher tier will give you more chances, more freedom, and more room to grow. Don't limit yourself before the exam even starts. If this video helped you think differently about GCSE choices, then make sure to like and drop a comment below. Are you doing higher or foundation, and what's the reason why? Make sure to subscribe for more no-nonsense GCSE advice, revision tips, and breakdowns that actually help you succeed. Aim high, you got this.